The Drive with Tim Donnelly here on 99.9 The Fan, joined in studio by one of the stars of NC State's run through the ACC tournament all the way to the Final Four a season ago. Talking men's basketball, former point guard for State, Casey Morsell. He is also my co-host for the Pack Therapy podcast as we transition over to the basketball side of Pack Therapy. So everywhere podcasts can be found, be sure to like and subscribe Pack Therapy. You can also find it on our YouTube page, 99.9 The Fan. You can also see Casey doing some stuff for ACC Network. The guy, he's everywhere. I mean, and we're happy to have some partnerships with him and happy to have him join us here. Casey, we appreciate it.
Oh, man, it means a lot. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk State. First of all, we have so much to get into, and we will be getting into all of it with the podcast over the next however many months. But I want to go back to something we talked about earlier. You're on this show before basketball season, and everyone wants to know how your run to the Final Four is going to translate to this year for NC State. And you brought up kind of I don't want to say a system change, but how the roster for State this year can play differently than your roster did. And it might be closer to how Kevin Keatts wants to play. So we'll just start with, is the system change working? Are they playing different, or is it sticking?
Honestly, they are playing a little different. I think they're still playing in a style that fits them best, and that's playing fast. I mean, you have fast bigs with Brandon Huntley, Hatfield, Dontrez Styles. So when you have a fast front court presence, it makes it easier to fit in a Kevin Keatts system.
So you call Dontrez Styles a big. Like is that his role? Is he down low? I mean, we know he's shooting a lot of threes.
Yeah, I mean, he stretches the floor out. So I would say, right now he's best in terms of he's had his best games in the front court position at the 4, but he can play the 3. I mean, it's really wherever Kevin Keatts kind of sees fits, and that's usually in game when he starts to kind of figure out, okay, we're going to put him on the wing or down low. It all depends on the flow of the game.
The Casey Morsell, by the way, joining us here, former NC State guard, talking NC State and ACC basketball. One of the things for NC State, for the squad, that I think is toughest in the transition, I'm calling it like it's figuring out who their main character is. And what I mean by that is, like when the other team scores 8 straight, right? You're up 4, and now you're down 4. The 2 threes and 2 free throws. Who gets the ball and is like, all right, we just need a bucket? Who on their team gets it? Who do you see filling that role?
It honestly changes. I mean, as you saw with Florida State last game, they ended up going to as you saw with Florida State, they ended up going with Dontrez
and
later
Marcus
on.
Hill,
and Marcus Hill later on. But the game before against Texas, they went with Jaden Taylor towards the end of the game. So it's going to change depending on game to game because there's so many guys who could shoot that last shot, which could be a great advantage for them because, as if you're an opposing team, there's not one guy you could really key in on. You just don't know who it can go to.
Could it also be something that they have to like a obstacle? Because looking at your run last year, you're right. You're the point guard. The ball's in your hands. It seemed like you knew your job was to set up DJ Horn or DJ Burns, right? They were the guys that were kind of like to get a bucket, and then you obviously you could score on your own, or Michael O'Connell could knock down a shot. We saw his ability, but those were the guys. Like it seems like if you have a bunch of guys that think they're getting the shot, that could almost be something you have to work against rather than a couple that know they're getting the shot.
Yeah, that's where the challenge comes for this NC State team is finding that one guy to really key in on. I really thought Brandon Huntley Hatfield was going to be that guy. I mean, just because of his front court presence and his ability to just finish at a high level around the basket. But as we've seen with these last 2 close games, it's either, it can come down to Jaden, it can come down to Dontrez, Marcus Hill. I think, in my opinion, based off of what I've seen, it's going to come down to either Jaden or Dontrez. Marcus, I mean, he's going to have to start shooting the ball better to get those last second shots because the defense is essentially going to give him that. They're going to give him shots towards the end of the game. So if he can start hitting those, I think he'll have more last second chance opportunities too.
Looking around the ACC, and I know you've done some media work calling games. One of the players who everybody wants to talk about is Cooper Flagg. Have you formed your opinion on what he is or what he isn't yet? Looking at what he can be for Duke.
You know what? I would say this, and this is I guess an unpopular opinion, but I would say that he's an important piece for Duke, but he's not the most important piece for Duke. I think
you know what my follow-up's going to be. What if it's not like the assumed number one overall pick? Like, who is the most important player for that squad?
I honestly, dang, it's tough. I
like
Malik.
Obviously they have the Knipple, they have Malawash, some of the other freshmen, or is it one of the vets?
I would say it's the vets. It's your Malik Browns. It's your Mason. It's those veterans who are the ones who are kind of bringing that team together on both ends of the floor. Cooper Flagg, they're going to set him up and put him in position for him to score the ball at a high level. They're going to run plays. They're going to run sets for him to get open. They're going to do different things. They're going to, draw up stuff so he can get open looks. And that, that's good for him too. But it's the guys who do the dirty work that's going to, that's going to determine how far Duke can go. Because Cooper Flagg, he's going to score the ball, but I don't think Duke is going to be successful because Cooper Flagg, he scores 18 points. That's not what's going to make them, first or in the top of the ACC.
Okay, well, let's go to another player that you're very familiar with, having defended him in some high leverage situations.
Yeah.
RJ Davis and UNC, they're 5-4, really haven't gotten that big signature win yet, or really even come close. RJ Davis is shooting 24% from three through 9 games, which last year he was 39.8% on the season. As a player, like is 9 games enough to be worried, or is like everybody goes through? You know what I'm talking about? Like, is it a shooting slump, or is it something that we need to keep our eye on?
Yeah, I think right now it's just a shooting slump. I think right now, with him being the ACC Player of the Year, he's facing a coverage where he has less time than last year to even get his shot off. So I think it's more of an adjustment thing in terms of trying to get in the flow. But when it comes to UNC as well, he's going to get tougher shots because guys can key on him more because you lose such dominant front court presence. I remember when we played UNC, we were just so focused on Mondo and trying to eliminate his second chance opportunities, and because he can get a double just in one possession. Like he just lay up, miss it, get it back, lay up, miss it, get it back. So he and when we scouted him, RJ was more like he was secondary in terms of trying to slow him down. We just wanted to key in on Mondo. But now that Mondo's gone, it's like, okay, let's all key in on RJ, and it's tough.
That's interesting to me because obviously with RJ being the ACC Player of the Year last year, it's surprising that he wasn't number one on the scouting report, which would be a difference between last year and this year of why maybe he's struggling a bit.
Yeah. Because there's so much that goes into the play for him to get open, right? Like if there's a screen, there's Mondo that's probably setting that screen last year. So you got to worry about getting over Mondo's screen, or else you're going to feel it. Like you don't want to run into that. So you got 2 options.
We were just off air. I'm going to put you on blast. We were off air, and you're looking up at the video screen on our YouTube, flexing for the camera. So you got a little bit of muscle. Armando was that kind of a physical presence?
It was illegal. It was a lot of illegal screens, But anyway, so I feel like he had a lot of looks from that, and when you lose bigs that aren't drawing much attention on both ends of the floor. Then it's like, okay, let's all key in on RJ, and then now you could throw different bodies at him. You're likely to switch at multiple positions. There's so many things you could do when you lose a guy like Armando, especially for UNC.
That voice you hear is Casey Morsell, former NC State guard, my co-host on the Pack Therapy podcast as we transition to basketball season. And you see him doing media stuff for ACC Network and a bunch of others as we move towards his post-playing basketball career and into what I think will be a very successful media career. Casey, the last one we have for you here before we let you go, you're somebody that played for Tony Bennett, and we've gotten your opinion on kind of that initial reaction to him retiring. Have you come to grips with the ACC with no Tony Bennett in it yet? Like, is it set in that a national championship winning coach just kind of walked away?
Yeah, it is crazy. It's the ACC's missing something. Like they're missing. I would say that legendary.
I won't put you on the spot now, but we'll get into it with the podcast on some of the who fills that void at the top of the coaching pyramid in the ACC. For so long, we knew who the top 3, 4
For
coaches
sure.
were going to be.
For sure.
You might argue about the order, but we knew the top 3 or 4.
For sure.
Now there's a vacancy there, and we're going to have to get into it. And hey, Kevin Keatts coming off a Final Four, probably would expect his name to be in there.
Yeah.
So, Casey, we appreciate you for taking the time. We're up against it here, so we're going to get moving. But if you want his in-depth thoughts when it comes to NC State basketball, NC State sports, and the ACC in general, check out the Pack Therapy podcast. There'll be episodes coming out shortly, and we'll be along for the ride this basketball season. Once again, Casey Morsell, appreciate it.
Let's do it.